Okay. So we have understood in the very first chapter that Arjuna's situation in the battlefield. He was completely confused about what to do because of his situation. So not only confused, and he was very, very worried, and he was crying and out of compassion. So kripaya paraya vishto. So kripaya means out of compassion for all his relatives, because Arjuna's situation in the battlefield, he has to kill all his relatives, his teacher who taught him how to shoot arrows, and also his grandfather Bhishma, and all other relatives, all his cousins, everybody. So it was a very difficult situation in the battlefield. Others didn't think like Arjuna thought, but others were just even Duryodhana, who was on the other side. Because of him only this war was happening. So Duryodhana didn't think that way at all. He was hoping everybody, all his cousins like Pandavas, Arjuna and his brothers, everyone will die in the battle and he can get the kingdom. So that's what Duryodhana was thinking. But Arjuna didn't think that way. He thought that if I kill them, then I don't care to live. I don't find any happiness in this world if I kill all my cousins. Nachaitat vidmaha kataranno gariyo yadvajayema yadivana jayi. So I don't know what is good for me to win or to lose. Yaneva khatva najiji visamaga te avastita pramukhe dardarashram. So if I kill them, then I don't even want to live. So that was Arjuna's situation. So in that kind of situation, it's a very difficult practical situation. We also see these days in news, and even among the relatives also, they will actually they fight and they kill. All such things are happening, all because of the attachments to this material wealth, materialistic things. So we also know that. Yes, bro.
Sorry for interrupting you. Can you share the screen for the Veda-based dot?
Oh yeah, I didn't share it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Just for reference.
Yes. I need to share. Yes, Prabhu. Now I'm sharing. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for informing. Hare Krishna. So now, I'm not sharing anything right now. I'm just giving the summary of what we have studied. And then Arjuna asked Krishna to tell him what is good for him, what he should do. So in that situation, in the second chapter we studied, Krishna told Arjuna, the very first sloka itself, in the very first answer itself, Krishna told Arjuna that you are speaking like a learned person, but you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. So that's what Krishna told. So while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. We all know that Arjuna, the reason he was worrying, it is really worthy, because he has to kill all his relatives and all such things. And Krishna is here telling him that you are worrying for no reason. Because Arjuna, or even in general, all of us in this world, we are not able to live in the consciousness that we are the soul. In general, we are not only in general, always, always our lifestyle, if we look at, so we are always thinking that we are this body. We don't have the knowledge that we are the soul. So that's why Krishna is teaching here that there are wise, those who are wise laymen, neither for the living nor for the dead, because they will be able to think beyond this life. Those who are wise. So that is the same word Pandita. We are also going to study today also in the 5th chapter. So this word Pandita. Pandita means the learned. So a Pandita, a wise person, does not layman. So neither for the living nor for the dead. The reason is that we actually understand this life is temporary. In this world, the life what we are living right now is temporary. Temporary means as a function of time, everything finished, everything ends. So there is a beginning for this body and also death. So when we celebrate birthday and death day, so actually, of course, we don't celebrate death day. We only, it's memory only, but we celebrate birthday. So here we are actually celebrating the day our body is born here. So that's it. But the soul is always there. So we understood from the second chapter, Krishna said that there is neither birth nor death at any point of time. So that's what we understood. So, and also he immediately told Krishna immediately told Arjuna that never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these things, nor in the future shall any of us cease to exist. Natvevaham jatunasam, natvam neme janadipaga, na chaiva na bhavishyamaga, sarve vayam ataha param. So that's a very important point we need to understand, that we are always there. We are always there means like the matter is like there is, we know that the law of conservation of mass, it is always there. Nobody can create, nobody can destroy. And the energy, nobody can create, nobody can destroy. Energy is also, we know the law of conservation of energy. So similarly, the law of conservation of the soul is also, the soul is always there. Nobody can create and nobody can destroy. So that's what we understand from Bhagavad Gita, that the soul, for the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So this is what we understood in the second chapter, that we are not the body, we are the soul. So that means we need to act in our life every day, in our daily activities. We need to act with this knowledge that each and every individual is the soul, not only humans, even animals. Everything is a soul. Everything which is born here, that is all the souls, they are taking different bodies. That's it. Because not only taking, we are forced to accept different bodies, depending upon our karma. So that's what in the next portion of the second chapter, Krishna is teaching us that it is known as karma bandha. So karma bandha, because of our bandha, bondage to work and bondage to birth, so we are forced to act. So another important sloka we need to understand here, Krishna is teaching us that you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. So that's what we think. We think that whatever I do, whatever I get, I own it. If we think like that, if we try to claim the results that it is ours, so that's where we are committing mistakes, because at that point of time, that is going to affect us. Because Krishna is teaching us here that never consider yourself the cause of the results of activities. We think that it's all happening because of me. I did it, I am able to do it, and that belongs to me. But that is not true. So here things are happening because first of all, we have energy to do, we have the senses, working senses, all those things we take it for granted. That's where we commit mistakes. We take it for granted that it's I am great, I am doing it. So, and Krishna is also teaching that never be attached to not doing your duty. Mate sangos akarmani. So that means we have to perform our duty, but we should not be attached to the results. You are not entitled to the fruits of action. That doesn't mean that we have to throw away the results. When we get the results, we should not be affected by the results. Whatever the results are, whether we like it or we don't like it. So that part also we are going to study in the 5th chapter today. That also we are going to study. Like Pandita, we are going to, Krishna is again going to teach us about who is Pandita. And again, this like the fruits of activities, we should not be affected. So that means for whom we should do all those things. So last week we discussed about the God. So we need to understand when Krishna is saying here that you are not entitled to the fruits, that means then who is entitled to the fruits? That's a big question. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that I am the supreme enjoyer. So Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam. So I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices, all offerings. So Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. So I am the supreme controller of all the worlds. That also we are going to study in the 5th chapter towards the last sloka, the very last sloka in the 5th chapter. Krishna is teaching us that. In fact, a lot of nice important slokas we are going to study in the 5th chapter today. So that way, what we are understanding that we have the right to perform our duty, and we should understand very well that we should not be claiming the results. In the sense, we should not be affected by the results. That is the main point. When we do work, when we act, when we get the results are going to be with us only. We are not going to kind of throw away the result. For example, if a student studies very nice, very hard, and performs very well in the exam and gets A's, all A's, straight 4. So that will be in the name of the student only. The university gives to the student. So we cannot at that time say that I don't claim the results, I am not entitled to the results, so I don't want the grade. That is not possible. But whether we are affected by that result or not, that is what is the main question. So Bhagavad Gita is teaching us that how to act in such a way that we are not affected by the results. So that's why I shall explain to you what is karma, by knowing which you will be freed from the miseries of material existence. Tate karma pravakshami yajnatva mokshashe asubhat. So whatever we are discussing right now, this is applicable to each and every individual. Every one of us are acting, every human being. That is the main thing. Of course, animals cannot think, so we can think. As I mentioned in the past, we have a very large frontal lobe. Our brain is very big, and we can ask questions, we can think, and we should now, if we are not affected by the results, so then we are very, very safe. So that's what we are understanding. So that way Krishna is teaching in the 2nd chapter that if you act with intelligence, so if you act with intelligence, then you will be freed from all the bondage to work. When you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. So that's why karma bandham prahasyasi. So that's what we need to do. We need to act with knowledge. So Krishna is teaching, of course, what to do. So that means we have to, it is possible for us to not get affected by the results only when we are able to connect ourselves with the God. If you don't bring God into picture, it is difficult. That motivation itself will not come for us to act. Because even Arjuna was completely demotivated. He was not able to do anything. But at the end, he told Krishna that I will fight. I shall fight. Who said that I shall not fight? Then he said that I shall fight. Nayotse iti govindam. That's what he told. He told Krishna in the beginning that Nayotse iti govindam. Govinda, I shall not fight. So that's what he told. So Govinda, I shall not fight. So that's what he said. Govinda, I shall not fight. Nayotse iti govindam. But he told Krishna in the 18th chapter, at the end, he told him, I shall karishe vachanam tava. I will perform, I will act as per your words. So that is what is very important for us. So what is going to happen when we study and understand this Bhagavad Gita fully? We know how to act, and we are able to connect with the God. That is the main thing. So then that motivation comes from there, that you are trying to please the God. In this material world also, we are always trying to please someone. If you are a student, you are trying to please the professor. And if you are working in an office setup, so you are trying to please the boss. Or at home also, you are trying to please someone's spouse, children, like that. So this is happening. Without that, our life will not go very peaceful. So like that, when we understand and realize that there is God, and if we please him, so then things will go smooth for us. So how we can please the God? So just by following what he wants, just by knowing, first of all, we need to know what he expects. So meeting his expectations. So that's what we get from this Bhagavad Gita. So as long as we are not attached, as long as we are not affected by the results, then God is pleased. That's what is very important. So if we are not affected by the results, then he is pleased. So that's why in the second chapter, then towards the end, if we are doing like that, if we are able to achieve like that, then we are going to get into a situation that we will not be affected by anything. When your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard. So that means nothing is in this world is going to bother us if we are able to achieve that situation. That situation is known as samadhi. This is another word we need to understand. In the past, we studied about yoga, yukta, all such things. So now, what is samadhi? So samadhi means our mind, our intelligence is very well established. Our intelligence is not disturbed at all. So that's why when your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance, so then you will attain the divine consciousness. So that's what Suti Vipratipannati. So we are not affected by anything. So we are not affected by anything in this material world. So then we will reach the situation that is known as samadhi. So that's why then Arjuna asks in the second chapter, what are the symptoms of a self-realized person? Then Krishna explains everything. We understood that very, very clearly. Then we studied in the third chapter. We already finished in the Karma Yoga. The third chapter is the Karma Yoga. So in the Karma Yoga, Arjuna asked Krishna the very first question that if you think intelligence is better than work, so if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work, okay, then why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare? That's what Arjuna is asking. So, in fact, he is asking Krishna that is fighting here in this battle. Is it that using intelligence? You are asking me to use intelligence, but at the same time, you are asking me to fight and kill all the relatives here. So now I am very confused. So I am bewildered. So my intelligence, in fact, my intelligence is bewildered. That's what Arjuna is telling Krishna. My intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. You please tell me what I should do. That's what he is asking. So that's where we understand the fifth, sixth, and seventh slokas are very important, which I have explained in the last time also. What we are understanding is that everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the three modes of material nature. These qualities are known as one's own qualities. That is known as swabhava. So swabhava means one's own qualities. Each and every individual soul has own qualities, swabhava. So that swabhava is actually forcing us to act. So what we are understanding in this chapter, in the second chapter also Krishna hinted, but here Krishna is explaining very clearly that especially in this particular verse, the fifth verse in the third chapter, that everyone is forced to act helplessly by the three modes of material nature. So that force, we are understanding. We are understanding very well that we are acting by force, and now we need to understand the science behind it. Like why these modes of nature are forcing us to act. Why is it forcing? Why is it forcing each and every individual in different ways? That's what we need to understand. So this is a very important science, because these three modes of material nature, so that is gunas, there is prakriti jayat gunahi. That's why Krishna is using the word guna. Guna means the three modes of nature. So that also we need to understand. So the word guna, we know Yukta, yoga, a lot of things we studied in the past. So like that, samadhi, guna. So what are the gunas? Gunas, the three modes of nature. So that this Bhagavad Gita, especially in the last, if we divide the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, all about the soul, that is our self, and the middle 6 chapters from 7 to 12 is all about the God, that is the super soul, Krishna, and then the last 6 chapters, they are mainly about these 3 modes of nature, these gunas. So that we will understand. We will understand very well about how these 3 modes of material nature are acting. In fact, the 14th chapter itself is titled as the 3 modes of material nature. That's what is the 14th chapter, the 3 modes of material nature. So that way, if you understand this Bhagavad Gita's science, so we understand that these 3 modes of material nature are very strong and very powerful, and they are forcing us to act. So now we need to use our mind. So one who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells. So if our mind is focusing on sense object, it's a problem. But this is a very important sloka Krishna is teaching there. With the mind, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga without attachment, so each and every word is very important. So each and every word, if you understand, because even in our normal material science also, for example, if you are studying a physics or chemistry or any subject, when we write exams, anything, in the question, we need to, even in the math, we need to focus each and every word, because then only we will understand the question completely and we can answer and get the right answer. So like that, here in Bhagavad Gita, whatever Krishna is teaching here, each and every word we need to understand. So here, Indriyani Manasa Niyamyarabhati. Indriyani means senses. Manasa means by mind. Niyamya means regulate. So we should regulate the Karmendriya. What Indriyas? Karmendriya. In the very first lecture, I explained about Jnanendriyas and Karmendriyas. So Karmendriyas, if we are able to regulate with the help of our mind, that is what is known as Karma Yoga. So what does it mean that regulating our senses? So that means unattached, asaktaga. Asaktaga means without attachment. So that means when we are performing any activity, any action, we should not be attached to the results. That is the first thing. That's the first and last thing. If we have no attachment to the results, so then what is going to happen if there is asaktaga? If we are unattached, what is going to happen? What is the effect of that one? So if we are unattached, Krishna is teaching us that tasmat asaktaga. This word same asaktaga. Asaktaga means without attachment. So tasmat asaktaga satatam karyam karma samachara. So without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty. For by working without attachment, asaktohi acharan karma. If we are not attached to the results, so then what is the effect? Paramapnoti Purushaga. Then we will attain the Supreme Person. So we will attain the Supreme. So that means we'll get a permanent life. We won't be getting a material body. The problem, our real problem is we are in this material body. This material body is actually going to come to an end. So, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, birth, death, old age, and disease, they are all for the material body. So, as long as we keep taking material bodies in this material world, we are going to struggle and suffer. So, if you are not attached to the results, so if you are not affected by the results, so then we are not going to get material body. So that's what we understood in the 3rd chapter. So then in the 3rd chapter, Arjuna also asked a lot of other questions. One important question he asked, for which also Krishna answered. So that is he asked the question that, what descendant of Rishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? So what is forcing one to commit sins? So that is because of our attachment only, our desires, kama and krodha. So kama is our desires and krodha is anger. So our desire to enjoy the material sense objects, so that's what is kama. And when we have such materialistic desires, so then definitely krodha also comes, anger also comes. So anger, fear, everything is because of the attachment. There is raga, vaya, krodha. Raga is attachment, vaya, krodha. Fear, anger comes because of attachment. So that way, what Krishna is teaching here, that evam buddhe param buddhva samstabhya atmanam atmana jagi satru mahabahu kama rupam durasam. So thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses. That's what param, superior. So the soul is not made up of matter. The soul is superior. Thus knowing that oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence. So samstabhya atmanam atmanagam. One should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence. So that's what samstabhya atmanam means. One should control the mind. So mind control is very important. Our mind should be under our control. And the entire 6th chapter is Krishna is teaching us about how to control the mind. That's what we will study very soon also. So by doing that, so you conquer your enemy. Jahi Satru, O mighty armed Mahabahu, O mighty armed Arjuna, you conquer your enemy. Who is our enemy? Kama. That is desires. Kama Rupam Durasana. So we need to conquer our enemy. So that is possible only if we are able to control our mind. So that's what we studied in the 3rd chapter. And 4th chapter also we studied, Krishna was continuing that we need to do everything as an yajna, everything as an offering unto Krishna. And Krishna himself comes to this world millennium after millennium to establish these principles of Bhagavad Gita. Because this Bhagavad Gita, he gave originally to Vivaswan. Vivaswan gave it to Manu. Vivaswan instructed to Manu, and Manu instructed it to Ikshvaku. But during the course of time, this succession was broken, and therefore science as it is appears to be lost. So now Krishna established the science again. That's why we are having this Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna told Arjuna that many births, both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot. So that is the difference between us and God, Krishna. So he is also coming here, and he is expanding, he is expanded everywhere in his unmanifested form, and we cannot put any limits to the God. So he is telling very clearly that I know the past, present, and future. So he knows everything in our previous lives also, but we don't know. So whatever we know only in this life, in our brain, all the memory is stored. When we die, when the soul leaves the body, this everything we are going to forget. We don't remember, because as long as we are able to use our brain, because everything is like in a computer, it is stored in the memory. So like that, here everything is stored in our brain. So there is a hippocampus. So that's where the memory is stored, long-term memory is stored in our brain. So that way, we need to understand that we are keep on taking births, but we need to get out of this material well. So that way, we understood that only by doing everything as an offering unto God. So that is what is known as yajna. So the word yajna is very important. So yajna means performing everything as an offering unto God. So whatever we do, we have to do in connection with God. That's what is very important. If we simply think or say that there is no God, so I am everything, so that may be our opinion. That may be each and every individuals can think whatever they want. So everybody can think whatever they want, but there is something reality. We need to understand what is really true. That's what is very important. So that comes from the knowledge. From the knowledge, we understand very clearly that there is God, he is in control, and that's what we understand. And so here, when we offer everything in relationship with this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, So then in the last portion of Bhagavad Gita, what we studied about this knowledge. So Krishna is teaching us that the sacrifice performed in knowledge. So that's what jnana yajnaga. So sarvam karma akilam partha jnane parisamapyate. So that means all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. So now you just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So that's what Krishna told Arjuna. So once we get this knowledge fully, and Krishna is teaching us that even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. And as the blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, this reaction. So there is jnanagni. Jnanagni means the fire of knowledge. And jnana plaveneva. Jnana plaveneva means the boat of knowledge. And also Krishna says that is the weapon of knowledge. There is jnanasina atmanaga. So that's why he is teaching in the last sloka. Tasmat ajnana sambhutam. So ajnana sambhuta means have arisen because of ignorance. So because of born of ignorance, that's what ajnana sambhuta means, born of ignorance. Ignorance means not knowing this Bhagavad Gita. Kritastham means inside the heart, situated in the heart. Jnanasin atmanaga chitvainam. Jnanasin atmanaga means the weapon of knowledge. So that's what the weapon, asina. Asina means weapon, jnana asina means weapon of knowledge. Jnana asina. So we should cut chitwa. Chitwa means cut off all the samsayam, doubts. So cutting all the doubts. So chitvainam samsayam yogamatisto uttista bharata. So be situated in yoga. Every week we are studying about the yoga. What is yoga? Being equal in both success and failure, not getting affected by the results. So that is what is called yoga. So you be situated in yoga. That's what Krishna is teaching there. Armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. So that's what he is asking. Krishna is asking Arjuna. So then last week we started in the 5th chapter. So in the in the 5th chapter we studied of that. But what Krishna was teaching, because Arjuna asked a question like, what is good for me? Whether renouncing the actions or performing the actions and renouncing the results, which is good for me. So first of all, you ask me to renounce work, and then you recommend work with devotion. So now you tell me which is good here. So Krishna said that work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. That's what is very important. So that means when we study this Bhagavad Gita fully, we understand that we are the soul, we are not the body. So, and then with that knowledge, we also understand that there is super soul who is in everyone's body. That's what Krishna is teaching in Bhagavad Gita, that I am seated in everyone's heart. So Isvara Sarva Bhutanam Hridades Arjuna Tisthati. So I am seated in everyone's heart. So Paramatma iti Chayuktaga. He is known as Paramatma. So we are Atma and Krishna is Paramatma. So Paramatma is also there in every body. So that way we understand that in this body we are not alone. And Krishna is always with us. With everyone he is there. So that's what we are understanding. So that way when we are able to connect with Krishna, so then that is what is called the work in devotion. So that is what is called karma yoga. So not getting affected by the results. So that way Krishna is teaching us that if we do like that, so then it's very quick. So we will be able to very quickly able to achieve. So that's what he is saying there. So one who works in devotion, who is a pure soul and who controls his mind and senses is dear to everyone and everyone is dear to him. So that way he is not entangled. So that's what he is teaching us. So yoga yukto visuddhatma vijittatma jitendriyaga sarva bhutatma kurvannapi na lipyate. So if we are engaged in devotion, yoga means when you are connected with God, then only we are not affected by the results. So we understand that yoga means not getting affected by the results, being equal in both success and failure. So when that can happen only when we are connected with God, because we have to be attached to something. Our mind cannot sit idle. So idle mind is the devil's workshop. We already know that. So our mind should be connected. So when our mind is connected with God, in fact, we can control our mind only when we are able to connect with the God. Manas samyamya matchitto. That's what in the 6th chapter we study. So you control your mind by thinking about me. So when we focus our mind on God, Krishna, and then we will be able to control our mind. So once our mind is controlled, then only we can achieve the status of yoga. That means not getting affected by the results. So that's why here Krishna is teaching that one who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, Visuddhatma, and who controls his mind and senses is dear to everyone. So Sarva Bhutatma, Bhutatma, Sarva Bhuta, Atma, Bhutatma, dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. So that's why Kurvannapi na lipyate. So so in order to do that, so what we are supposed to do in this slokam, in the 8th and 9th slokam, one should think that in all seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, so all these things, sleeping, opening, closing eyes, everything, the senses are engaged with their objects. The material senses are engaged with their object, and that he is aloof from them. So that's what one should think. That's what naiva kinchit karometi yukto manyeta tarpravit. So I am not the doer, I am not doing anything. So when we can do that only when we are able to connect with God. So that's why it's a very important shloka. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord. That's what here it means. So when we are not attached to the results, means we understand that the results belong to the God. So then that way, whatever we do, we are doing it for the satisfaction of God. That means for pleasing the God. But one important thing we need to understand, such a person who claims that he is a God, but he was actually serving Arjuna here. He was driving Arjuna's chariot. Riding Arjuna's chariot. So that means he was acting like a servant of Arjuna. So in the battle, such a big war happening there, so he has to listen to Arjuna because he cannot take the chariot in the direction he wants. So Arjuna is the one who is going to dictate. Even in the beginning, in the very first chapter also, Arjuna only told Krishna, you take the chariot between both the armies. Senayor ubayor madhye ratham sthapaya me achyuta. So a person who claims he is the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna, but he is actually acting like a servant of his devotee here, Arjuna. So that's what we need to understand. When we say that surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, so or when we are offering food to Krishna, prasadam, what we call it is, that also Krishna is teaching us. So that means it is actually, he is also serving us. That's what is very important. So all that means as long as we are not affected by the results or we are not attached to the results, that is the meaning of surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord. So if we are able to do that, then we are not affected by sinful reaction. That means we are unaffected by sinful reaction, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. So that's what Brahman Adaya Karmani Sangam Tektva Karotyaga Lipyate Nasa Papena Padma Patram Ivambasa. So now all these slokas Krishna is teaching very scientifically. Here, what we are supposed to do, our body, mind, intelligence, and senses, we should use them to purify ourselves. So that means abandoning attachment. Sangam Tektva. So Sangam Tektva means by giving up the attachment. So that's what Krishna is saying, that Kayena, Manasa, Buddhya, Kevalair, Indriyair api, Yoginaha karma kurvanti, Sangam Tektva, Atma Suddhaye. So Yoginaha karma kurvanti. The yogis, that means anyone who got this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and acting as per Bhagavad Gita, he is a yogi and he performs all the activities without any attachment. Sangam tyaktva. That's what asaktaga. We studied earlier asaktaga. Sangam tyaktva. So only for Atma Suddhaye, only for the purification of the self. So that way, it's very important. In the next sloka also, Krishna is continuing that Yuktaha Karmapalam Tyaktva. So what happens if we are able to give up the attachment to the results? We are going to get the peace of mind. So peace of mind, as I mentioned in the past lectures also, peace of mind we cannot get by any other means. We cannot buy it from online. We cannot get from anyone. We cannot get it through pills, medicines, nothing. Peace of mind has to come from within ourselves. So that's why that peace of mind can come only when we are not attached to the results. If we are attached to the results, we are going to lose the peace of mind. So it is at the expense of our peace of mind, we are getting material results. That's what we need to understand. So that's why ayuktaha kama karena pale sakto nibaddhyate. So that's what nibaddhyate, it binds. Nibaddhyate means it binds. If you are ayuktaha. So yukta, ayukta. We understood earlier, I explained very clearly about what is the meaning of yukta and ayukta. We are going to study in the 6th chapter also. So yukta means it is when we are able to regulate our thoughts. That is yuktaga, that is yata viniyatam chittam atmanyeva avatistade. So our thoughts, our mind, everything is under our control. So that is what is called yukta. Otherwise it is ayukta. So here Krishna is continuing to teach in the next slokas also. So what we are understanding is that when we are able to do that, when you are able to mentally renounce all the actions, that's what sarva karmani manasa sannyasyaaste. Manasa means by mind. That's why manasa. So manasa, that means by mind, if you are able to sannyasya, that means renounce. So we will perform the activities, but renounce by the mind. Then he resides happily in the city of 9 gates. So our material body, this is Navadware Pura. Navadwara Pura means the city of 9 gates. So what are those 9 gates? 2 eyes and 2 nostrils and 2 ears. That makes 6 and 1 mouth, 7. And then 1 anus and 1 genital. So that makes 8 and 9. So these are the openings in our body. So that's what the city of 9 gates. So one can live happily if we are able to mentally renounce all the activities. So this is also very, very important shloka. That is, the embodied spirit, the master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of actions. So 3 things. So, na kartritvam, na karmani lokasya srajati prabhuvam, na karma pala samyogam. So 3 times Krishna is saying na. Na means does not. Na kartritvam means does not create activities. Na kartritvam. Na karmani lokasya srajati prabhu. So nor does he induce people to act. And na karma pala samyogam means nor does he create the fruits of actions. So then what is happening? All this is enacted by the modes of nature. The 3 modes of nature, they are only doing all these things. So the 3 modes of material nature. So that's what we understand. So that way, Krishna also is not assuming anyone's sinful or pious activities. So nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sins or sinful or pious activities. So that's what Krishna is saying. So because he is saying that nadate kasyachin papam nachaiva sukritam vibhu. The reason is why we are committing sins. Ajnane avritam jnanam tena mukhyanti jantavaga. Ajnana, ignorance. Jnanam, that is knowledge. So our knowledge is covered by ignorance. So that's what ignorance which covers their real knowledge. So they are bewildered because of that. So because of the ignorance, because this Bhagavad Gita knowledge we don't have. That's the reason we are struggling and suffering. That's it. Unfortunately, this knowledge is not taught in any schools or colleges. Unfortunately, we think that this is just a part of some religion or this is a religious book or something like that. Bhagavad Gita doesn't belong to any individual religion. In fact, there is not even a single word Hindu also is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. That itself is not a Sanskrit word at all. When Krishna was giving this knowledge to Arjuna, that there was no religions like Hindu at all at that point of time. So, this Bhagavad Gita is the science. Is the science, this knowledge, if we get this knowledge, then all our ignorance is destroyed. That's why Krishna is teaching us that in the next sloka, when one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, darkness is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Ajnanena avritam jnanam tena muhyanti jantaval. So that's what Krishna is teaching. Jnanena tu tadajnanam esam nasitam atmanaga tesam aditya vajnanam prakasayadi tatparam. So that's what when we get this knowledge, then it lights up everything. Then we know what is right, what is wrong. We know we are not the body, we are the soul. And we know the mind, senses, intelligence, and the relationship between the body, this life, everything makes sense. There is no confusion at all if we get this full knowledge. So that's why this knowledge is the key thing for us. Once we get this knowledge, so then we are in good shape. So that way, when one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge all fixed in the Supreme, when we get this knowledge, we are getting the knowledge about ourselves and we are getting the knowledge about the Supreme. So then we are able to connect with the Supreme. So then once we are able to connect with the Supreme, we are fully, our mind becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceed straight on the path of liberation. So that's why I mentioned in the earlier in the beginning that about Pandita. So that a person who has this full knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is a Pandita. And when a person gets this knowledge, because when we get this knowledge, we are able to see through the eyes of knowledge. That is Jnana Chakshusha. Jnana Chakshusha means the eyes of knowledge. When we are able to see through the eyes of knowledge, at that point of time, the humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. So it's all, just for example, Krishna is giving some names here. So first of all, we know that everything is soul. Other animals, everything, they are all souls only. So it's all, even we can become a dog or cat or anything. It is possible. It all depends upon what body we are going to get. It all depends upon what we are going to remember at the time of death. So that also we are going to study in the 8th chapter. So that's what a Pandita. A Pandita sees every individual as the soul. An ant or elephant, everything as the soul. So Vidya Vinaya Sampanni, Brahmane Gavihastini, Sunichaiva Swapakecha, Pandita Samadarshinaga. So that's why Krishna is teaching us that for those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity, have already conquered the conditions of birth and death, they are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. So Ihaiva Taigi, Jitagas Sargau, Esam Samye Stitam Managa, Nirdosham ki Samam Brahma, Tasmat Brahmani Tesit. So all these slokas are very, very important slokas in the 5th chapter, what we are studying. So here, Na Pragrishet Priyam Prapya, No Dvijet Prapya Cha Priyam Stira Buddhi Asamudo Brahmavet Brahmani Stitaha. So, because Bhagavad Gita is the song, Gita means it is song. So, each and every sloka is like a song. So, here Krishna is saying that a person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, na pragarsyet priyam prapya. Priyam prapya means when you get what you want, when you get what you like, and nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant. That means nodvijay prapya cha priyam. Apriyam. Apriyam means what you don't like. And that is na pragarsyet priyam prapya nodvijay prapya cha priyam sthira buddhi, means who is self-intelligent, asammuda, who is unbewildered. So he is who knows the signs of God, is already situated in transcendence. So that is the situation we need to elevate ourselves. So if we are able if we are able to elevate ourselves like that, then what is going to happen? We are going to enjoy unlimited happiness. Person enjoys, that is the real happiness, unlimited happiness. Krishna is also going to teach us what is the material happiness we are trying to enjoy in this material world. But the real happiness is actually here, such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance. So that's what Krishna is teaching us, that Bhagyasparsesu asaktatma vindadi atmani yat sukam. So Bhagyasparsesu asaktatma. So asakta. So asakta means not attached. Bhagya means outside, external. External sense enjoyment. The enjoyment what we get with sense objects. Because sense objects are not inside us. The sense objects are outside us. So food what we eat, so that is the sense object. It's outside, we are putting in our mouth, and then through this from our mouth, like taste buds and everything. So the receptors are there. So they are taking the sense objects. So our mind is thinking that it is sweet. There are, for each taste, there is a different receptors are there. For the sweet, for saltiness, and everything, there are different receptors are there in our tongue. So that way, similarly for ears, for hearing, and for seeing, all those things, that happiness what we are getting is actually external bhagyasparsesu. So bhagyasparsesu asaktatma, yatha vindadi. So who is able to asaktatma means who is not attached. So who is not attached to vindadi atmani atsugam, who is able to find happiness within the self. So ourselves not getting disturbed by anything in this material world itself is happiness. We are getting peace of mind. So that's why Krishna is saying that such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance. So enjoying the pleasure within. So in this way, Sukam Akshayam Ashnude, he will be able to get unlimited happiness. So that's why this is a very important sloka also. I say everything very important, but it is in Bhagavad Gita, it is like that way only, each and every sloka. Yegi samsparsaja bhoga dukkayonayayevate adyantavantaka kaunteya nateshu ramate buddhaga. So samsparsaja means the enjoyment which is born from the contact of senses with the sense objects. So that's what is samsparsaja bhoga. Bhoga is the enjoyment. Samsparsaja means which is born from the material senses when they are in contact with material sense objects. Everything is made up of matter. Our senses are made up of matter. The sense objects are made up of matter. When they are in contact, so that enjoyment actually, that is the source of our distress. Dukkha yoniya yevate. So that's what dukkha yoniya. That is what we are distressed. We are struggling and suffering because of such things. So that's why anything, if we eat too much, if we indulge too much in material sense enjoyment, we are at the end, we cannot enjoy unlimitedly. First of all, if someone likes sweet, he cannot keep on eating sweets. There is a limit. So they have got both beginning and end, Adi and Anta. Adi is beginning, Anta is end. So an intelligent person does not take participation in such kind of cheap sense enjoyment. So an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have the beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. So that's what Krishna is teaching. So that way, what Krishna is teaching us that those who are, so one who is happiness within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually perfect mystic. So before giving up his present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this way. So that is what happiness. So saknotigaiva yasodum prak sarira vimokshana kama krododbhavam vegam sayuktaga sasuki naraka. Kama krodha. So that is desire and anger. Kama and krodha. If one is able to force that vegam, the vegam is the force of kama and krodha. So if one is able to check them, one is able to control them, then sayuktaga, he is well situated, and sasuki, he is the happiest person in this way. So that is the real happiness. The real happiness comes when we are not affected by anything in this material way. So yonta sukho antararamaga tathantaga jyotirevayaga sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhuto adhigachati. So brahma bhuta is the platform. We are completely situated in this spiritual life. So basically we are eligible to get liberation from this material world when we are able to elevate ourselves to the Brahma Bhuta platform instead of Jiva Bhuta. Right now in this material world, we are all Jiva Bhutas. Jiva Bhuta means we are struggling hard in this material world with 6 senses, including the mind. So, Mamaivamse, Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta, Sanatanaga, Manasastani Indriyani, Prakritistani Karsati. That's what Krishna is saying there. So they are of my Amsa, my nature, these Jiva Loka, all these souls, this Jivatma. So, but they are struggling hard with 6 senses, including the mind. So once we are able to find happiness within the self, Anta. Anta means happiness from within, Anta Sukham. And Antararamaga. So one who is able to enjoy within the self, Antar Jyoti. So one who is able to get everything within the self, Sayogi Brahma Nirvanam. So that means liberation from the material world. So that's what happens. So when that happens, so then what is happening? That's what we need actually. So that's why Krishna is teaching us that Kama Krodha Vimuktanam Yatinam Yata Chetasam Abhito Brahma Nirvanam Vartate Viditatmana. So what does that mean? Is that Kama Krodha Vimuktana means freed from Kama and Krodha. So that's what Kama Krodha. Those who are free from anger and all material desires. Kama is desires and Krodha is anger. That's what we should get. If you are freed from Kama and Krodha, then our life is very peaceful, very blissful. So we should free ourselves from Kama and Krodha. So that's why those who are free from anger and all material desires, Kama Krodha Vimuktanam, Yatinam, Yatha Chetasam. So who are self-realized, Yati, self-discipline and constantly endeavoring for perfection, Abhito Brahma Nirvanam, Vartate Viditatmana, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. So that's what is going to happen. When we get this knowledge, when we understand this entire Bhagavad Gita, when we understand that we are not the body, we are the soul, and we know how to control our mind by connecting with Lord, connecting with Krishna. So if we are able to control our mind, and then if we are able to control our senses, if we are able to elevate ourselves to the spiritual platform by freeing ourselves from the Kama and Krodha, that is Kama and Krodha, desires and anger, all such things. So then we are assured of liberation in the Supreme. So that should be the goal of our life. The goal of our life is not to come back again to this material world, not to get another material body. So that's why shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between 2 eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence. The transcendentalist aiming at liberation becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. So that kind of situation, status we need to obtain in this life. Because everything otherwise in this material world, everything is temporary. We may think that I am very busy, I am so and so, and I have a lot of other things to do and all such things. But if we look at with the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita through the eyes of this Bhagavad Gita, whatever we are doing, actually, that's what we have done for so many lifetimes in the past. We were so busy in the previous lifetimes also. And in this life also, it is like that only materially speaking. So, but we should not lose this human life. We should not waste this human body. This human life, this human brain is meant to actually realize ourselves and free ourselves from this material bondage. So that's why Krishna is teaching us here that this last sloka, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheswaram Sugurdam Sarva Bhutanam Nyatwamam Shantim Vichya. So how we can achieve peace of mind? So that is knowing that Krishna is the enjoyer, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheswaram. So he is the enjoyer, beneficiary of all yajna and tapasa, all the austerities and sacrifice, whatever we do, whatever actions we do, that means all the results belong to God. That's what we need to understand. That's the fact. We claim the results today, but tomorrow we are not here to even claim. Those who think that they are billionaires, millionaires, or we are even becoming very rich and we have so many properties, this and that, but when we die, we are not there to claim that. As long as we live, we are claiming it. Once we leave this body, then somebody else will claim. So that's what is happening. We are claiming something which were claimed by someone earlier, and now which will be claimed by someone in the future, but which is always with the God. So everything is always, he's the enjoyer. Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam. And he is the supreme controller of all the world. Sarvalokam. Sarvalokam means all planets. Lokam means planet. So he is the supreme Maheswara. So Maheswara means he is the supreme controller of all the planets. So that we need to understand. There is God in control. We cannot simply say that there is no God. This world is not by chance. The location of this earth from the sun, the way the earth rotates itself and revolves itself and goes around the sun, all such things is not by chance. So it's all by perfect science. The angle at which it is tilted compared to the sun, all these things, everything is by perfect design. So that way, he is the Sarvaloka Maheswara and Sugurdam Sarva Bhutanam, and that Lord, that Supreme Lord. So he is the well-wisher of all living entities. Sugurdam Sarva Bhutanam. So just Nyatva Mam, so that is me. Knowing that is me, Shantim Richati, one gets the peace of mind. So that's why if we are able to get this knowledge fully and understand that there is God in control and we are the soul and Krishna is the super soul, and connect with God and do everything based on this Bhagavad Gita without any attachment to the results and able to see this well through the eyes of knowledge, so then we will be able to liberate ourselves from this material bondage. So that's what is very important science, this Bhagavad Gita. This is the topmost knowledge, most confidential and the purest knowledge and the king of knowledge. So now by Lord Sri Krishna's causeless mercy, we have successfully finished the 5th chapter today. And I will stop now. We'll discuss if any questions are there. Let me ask from the Zoom now. Yeah, Ms. Kerry, you could hear everything clearly today?
Yes, thank you. The audio has been very good these past few times.
Nice. Yeah, because I think, yeah, you are right. When I am there in that room, when I give the lecture last time, that audio was not at all good, but in this computer, I don't know, some reason. Okay. So this Zoom, that's good. So any questions you have? Anything you want to ask?
I don't have any questions today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Karan Prabhu, is Alak also there?
Yeah, Alex, yeah.
Hi Alak, good morning Alak. I'm sorry, today also I couldn't come there. So you understood everything, Alak?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Okay, maybe I will contact him again later. So any other questions, Karan Prabhu?
No, I don't think so. From our side, everything's good.
Okay. So Rohit Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhu, everything is clear to you?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yes, everything was clear.
Okay. So then we will again see next week. Okay. So Karan Prabhu, you want to say anything else for a few words before we close?
Nope, I guess let's call it a day for today.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.